Hello and welcome back to the Tank Observers podcast. My name is Jackson McCarty, back alongside my co-host Chris Barr. And Chris, what are we doing today?
Today we're going to talk about the best and worst fits out of this most recent draft class.
Yeah. This most recent draft happened, 2 months ago now?
Just about.
And we've been analyzing the rosters. We've given you a little bit of content. Obviously, quarantine did kind of shove the podcast to the back burner because, quite frankly, Zoom's just not fun. And we want to be able to have fun and let you guys in on the fun. And we don't want to have to be straddled to it where it's obvious that the content's not as good as it can be. So we regrouped, we're back, new studio, and we're ready to start producing. Topher, I gave you the quarterbacks, and I'm going to let you kick it off. Give me your best and your worst fits.
Well, my best fit is obviously Joe Burrow. I don't really think I have to go into too much detail, but I have a few things written down. He's made sense. Why wouldn't they take Joe Burrow? They got rid of Andy Dalton already. He was the first overall pick, so if they didn't want him, they wouldn't have taken him. Obviously, he's a good fit, and he's already the starter. Yeah. So, yeah, Joe Burrow.
Pretty softball pitch to start the video off. Joe Burrow, the first overall pick. If he's not the best fit in the draft, you did it wrong. Just in layman's terms.
It's the Bengals, though. They could have messed it up. They didn't, but they could have.
6 and 10 coming to a theater near you. All right, now give me your worst fit on this list.
Worst fit. Jake Fromm.
Go ahead and explain it.
It's Jake Fromm. He's a developmental QB that's not going to develop. He's behind a fumbling, tall, baby giraffe-looking 24-year-old starting QB that likes to throw laterals in the middle of playoff games to no one. So,
is it just
he's not going to play. Josh Allen's bad, and we all know it. He has barely completed over 50% of passes on his career.
So by picking Fromm in this position, are you reaffirming that he is indeed an elite white male?
Jake Fromm is a bad fit because Bills fans are too attached to their bad starting quarterback, and he's never going to play.
He does kind of remind me of like a really souped up Cardale Jones, Josh Allen. But
yeah,
I have issue with Fromm being this pick because he was so late of a pick. I enjoy his play, and I think he could eventually turn into a Case Keenum type of starter.
Yeah, that's fair.
But Jalen Hurts has a much higher ceiling, and he's behind Carson Wentz, who, granted, is injury prone. He could be out next week for all we know. But he needed a more clear path to start. I think Chicago should have taken him, which obviously that did not get to happen. They ended up taking another of 18 tight ends with Cole Kmet in the second round. But Jalen Hurts is there, and then I threw Cole McDonald on just because if you're a regular of the show, you know how much of that my heart that man holds.
Cole McDonald is a 6th round pick.
Yes.
And you're complaining that Jake Fromm was a 5th?
If you're allowed to put your favorites on here, so am I.
All right, but I also don't believe that Jalen Hurts was the worst fit because I do think he's going to play, and frankly, Carson Wentz gets driven to games in the ambulance. So
I don't think that you draft a Taysom Hill role in the second round because that's clearly what they want him to do.
Fine. But what if he ends up Mike Vicking it and taking the job from Carson Wentz? We don't know.
More power to him, and that's what I'm hoping for. But as it stands right now, that would have been my personal pick. Now moving on to the running backs, I had the designation for this one. The best running back fit also just so happened to be the first one taken off the board again. You can see a bit of a theme. Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Kansas City. You had the option of Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, but they decided to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire strictly off of his fit. He's a great pass-catching back. He knows what his role is going to be. He's not going to take too much of the limelight off of Pat Mahomes. And he's going to factor in heavily for a team that returned so many starters that during the COVID time, they seem primed to win another Super Bowl in my eyes.
I agree. I really couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Arguably, I think Jonathan Taylor could have been a better fit for their team, but they went with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Either one would have ended up in this spot. Either one would have been the best fit for the team because obviously Jonathan Taylor has a little bit more of a running element to him, but
I give that
Either.
nudge to Edwards-Helaire for the sole purpose of
Well,
Pat Mahomes.
Honestly, Jonathan Taylor's not even the best fit for the Colts, so he couldn't have taken the spot in his current position.
Yeah.
But if the Chiefs did take him, I think we still would have had the Chiefs running back here.
Most likely. Now, the second one, the worst fit that I have, DeAndre Swift for the Lions. Did you forget Kerryon Johnson's on the roster? Because it sure seems like it with that pick. He's not a bad option. And I don't think you draft a third down back that high, especially not whenever Patricia, it might inevitably be going out of the door next year. New regimes like to replace players all the time. And DeAndre Swift feels like the wrong position to have tried to add depth if you're Patricia to save your job or for whoever's going to have to replace him. Because now that you've got Kerryon and DeAndre, it's kind of a weird mesh of similarities. I don't think one brings more power running, like not significantly, to where it actually adds that dynamic. I don't consider Kerryon a power back. But it's just kind of a weird mesh of substituting similar running backs.
I agree in the sense that Kerryon still doesn't feel like he's been given his fair chance due to his injury history, but I think that's what kind of gives Swift the edge here, because Kerryon didn't exactly perform last year. In his career of 2 seasons as a starting running back,
Yes.
if you can call him that, since he's played 18 games and started 14 in 2 years, he's only accumulated 1,044 yards
Not great.
and 6 touchdowns. He's not, and he averaged 3.6 yards per carry last year. He isn't a great back.
Which how many games did you say he's started?
14.
So that puts him over 1,000 yards had he been completely healthy.
That puts him over
For a
1,000
season- for a
yards
season.
in 14 games as a starter.
Yes. But you can't trust him to be on the field. It makes
No.
sense for them to have added a running back. I think I would have personally rather have seen Zach Moss around later for Detroit.
I agree.
And so it just didn't feel like the best route for them to go. All right, Topher, throw the wide receivers at me.
I'm doing it again. There's a theme here. I'm not sure if you've noticed.
Is there a pattern?
But Henry Ruggs is the best fit receiver. Mind blown, the first one off the board. It's another layup, too, especially with Tyrell Williams out the door for them. Not cut, but hurt, out for the season. Henry Ruggs is now the only receiver on the team, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to try to name another one, go for it. They already called him the point guard of the offense. They said, we're going to run it through him and just see where we go.
Okay, hold on. Who said, which quote was it? Was that from Gruden?
I believe it was Mayock.
Okay, because I was about to say, if it wasn't from an actual team source, the media just
No,
still
it was-
really hates Derek Carr.
I don't know why they don't like Derek Carr. Derek Carr's coming off the best season of his career.
They're pushing him hard to not be the face of Las Vegas. They
Yo,
want Mariota.
you want a question? Why didn't they take Jalen Hurts? Trade up.
Because I think they've got their eyes on a certain Justin Fields from this year.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that. I think I like Jalen Hurts better, and just in general.
That's a interesting take, but
Yeah.
that's for a
Jalen
different-
Hurts ran Oklahoma.
That's for a different podcast episode. But
Yeah, why not?
you see Henry Ruggs, or you've talked about Henry Ruggs. Now go ahead and give me your worst fit.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, a late pick. I think a little too late.
He's a great
He could have
receiver.
been a lost gem for the Packers, who decided to draft 4 offensive linemen and no receivers.
And they just become the land of triple name receivers, like Onania St. Brown, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
What a fit it would have been.
Could have gotten Antonio Gandy Golden at some point in the draft.
Probably would have been the best fit receiver.
Yeah.
But no, he fell to the poor Browns, who already have too many receivers. They still have David Njoku. He hasn't been traded yet, remarkably. Austin Hooper,
Yep.
Odell Beckham Jr.,
Yep.
another 3-name. Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins. I can keep going, but I forgot the rest of their roster because I was trying to memorize it. But no, they decided to draft Donovan Peoples-Jones, another talented Michigan receiver, still managed to do good with Shea Patterson.
That's a rare feat.
Oof.
You should be given a Medal of Honor for that one.
Yeah, and not be drafted to a team that already has too many receivers on the roster. My goodness. Too many mouths to feed. A talented guy around other talented guys.
Yeah. That's definitely going to stunt his development at the bare minimum. His best case scenario is to see 30% of the snaps for his first 2 years.
Yeah.
And if that's your best case scenario for a receiver that was as talented as Donovan Peoples-Jones, you've made a mistake.
Maybe they saw something that we didn't, and that's why he was in the 6th round to begin with.
A spot to put another pass catcher in a run-heavy offense. Seems like.
Why didn't the Bears go after him, or any NFC North team?
Don't worry, this next position we're going to get to talk about the Bears. All right, so for tight ends, I've decided to go with 2 picks really, but same team: Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene for the New England Patriots. And Topher, go ahead and read that first bullet point I have for this one because you took exception to it.
Ooh, old Billy B loves him a good tight end.
Yes, he does, and so he
Old
takes
Billy
2. We were talking about this before the show. Robert Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez had almost 1,000 yards each in 2012?
2011, Gronkowski had 1,300 yards and 17 touchdowns. And I memorized this. 910 yards and 7 touchdowns for Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah.
And perhaps his off-the-field issues, but my goodness, they had 2 Pro Bowl caliber seasons on the same team.
There's the proof in the pudding. That's why I put Asiasi and Dalton Keene here, because we know how much Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels love that double tight end set. We know that they're not going to change a tremendous amount for Cam Newton. Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels don't waver for people. They do things their way, and Cam Newton has to adapt to the Patriot way. It's just part of it. Using both of these tight ends as kind of that complement, it reminds me a lot of the draft class that they got both Aaron Hernandez and Robert Gronkowski in, because they were drafted the same year.
Yes, they were.
It's such an interesting position because they obviously watched both of these tight ends and said they complement each other so well that we can use both and maybe even produce a couple great tight ends again. So that felt like a very solid option for me. I felt very comfortable with that.
Let's not run away with this and say that in their second season they're each going to have 1,000 yards like they almost did.
Well, no, but you can be hopeful.
Yeah, because coming out of the draft in 2010 and then putting up those numbers in 2011 might have been unique to 2 great tight ends.
Yeah, well, let's call it 1.5 great tight ends because we don't know how the rest of Aaron Hernandez's career would have unfolded. But now to touch on that teaser we gave you earlier, the worst fit is obviously Cole Kmet for Chicago.
Poor guy. He had such a bright future.
I love Cole Kmet, and I still think he could do well in Chicago. But how many tight ends do you need? I get Jimmy Graham wasn't added until after the draft, but why add him after the draft? Keep the path clear for what was my favorite tight end in the class. And just being completely honest, Nick Foles, when he's not in a Philly uniform, is a subpar at best quarterback. And Mitch Trubisky has shown no real signs after last season that he is going to be anything above that. So that shaky play is at least going to harm him for one season. There's, again, too many tight ends on the roster to justify it. And Matt Nagy's offense doesn't even like tight ends that much.
No, it doesn't.
Their best tight end last year, Trey Burton, 14 catches. Why do you need so many tight ends if you're not going to throw to them? I get that Cole Kmet has a good blocking scheme, but you don't draft a second rounder because he can block unless he's on the O-line. There's just so much more to be desired with that pick, for me at least. Now, Topher, shifting it to your area of expertise, because I'm not. You're the offensive line whisperer. I'm just kind of here for it.
Yeah, before we move on, thoughts and prayers to what could have been Cole Kmet's career.
Yeah.
Best fit.
I feel like we need to pour some out for him.
Best fit, Lloyd Cushenberry. Now, this LSU center, such a talent. So
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see what team he ends up on in 4 years. Because with the departure of yet another starting caliber center from the Denver Broncos, they needed a new center. Well, we all remember Matt Paradis. He ended up on the Panthers.
He's gone.
And then Connor McGovern. He's gone.
See ya.
I'm not sure where he got to, but I'm sure he's going to do well there like Matt Paradis is doing for the Panthers because And you know what? Who can wait to see where Lloyd Cushenberry ends up at the end of his rookie contract? Because I doubt he's going to get an extension.
But while he's there, he should be an absolute tank. He's a great player from
Oh, yeah.
what we've seen at LSU. And he can be a real anchor to the middle of that line.
Yeah, because, with their rotation of running backs that happens every 2 seasons, I'm sure they're going to need all the help they can get. His pass blocking might be a little iffy, but his run blocking, absolute mauler.
He's got enough help on his sides, though.
Oh, yeah. Ronald Leary and fill in the blank at left guard. Worst fit.
There you go.
My Minnesota Vikings' very own second-round pick, Ezra Cleveland.
Yes.
Wow, this was a misfire. For starters, there was better talent left on the board when this was taken. I'm not going to go into details. Take my word for it. We've done plenty of mock drafts, and
Yes.
my goodness, I can tell you just from watching and crying that this was not the way to go. And he's an agile, big body run blocker. Maybe we'll move him to the inside so he could take over for one of our awful guards. But why didn't you take someone that was NFL ready so that we could cut the $10 million dead weight that is Riley Reef? Take someone that's game ready so that we have a pass blocker for poor Kirk. Because Riley Reef ain't it.
Maybe Ezra Reed has some undiscovered EFS that we don't know about yet. That's his
Yeah,
only real
maybe.
hope in Minnesota.
Maybe he has EFS. I don't know. I hope he does.
For the uninitiated, that is Eric Flowers syndrome. It applies to somebody who was drafted as a tackle, and when they moved to guard, they were significantly better.
Yeah. Eric Flowers might have gotten overpaid by Miami, but he's certainly better than what he was.
That's what we were going to pay him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's too much.
He just picked Miami because, it's prettier and has less groping in the front office. Well, allegedly. But, so that wraps up the offensive line. Now shifting to the other side of the ball. Somebody you guys have heard us rave about, Javon Kinlaw, going to San Francisco. That is my absolute best fit. They just shipped DeForest Buckner out to Indianapolis. He's gone.
Yeah.
And in his stead, they got one of my favorite defensive linemen in the draft. I'm not going to say that he's better than Derek Brown. I personally enjoy watching him more than Derek Brown, but that might
Yeah.
just be because of seeing his interviews and just seeing how entertaining of an individual he is.
Dude called out Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
He said he's going to be better.
Yeah.
He's talking about one of the greatest inside pass rushers of my lifetime, possibly of all time.
That's the stuff you gotta love.
Arguably, you don't want to throw that out there since he's not even 30 yet, but Aaron Donald is one of the greatest interior defensive linemen ever, and Javon Kinlaw straight up called this man out.
That's the stuff you love to see. You want to see confidence from your players because if they're not confident in themselves, why should you be? But he's got that role carved out for him now that DeForest Buckner's gone. Solomon Thomas isn't all that impressive, and Nick Bosa will help him for years and years avoid those double teams and get at the quarterback at a high rate. He's just coming in and replacing a huge spot on what was a Super Bowl roster. And they've still got the roster to compete. You can talk about Seattle with Jamal Adams. You can talk about the Saints holding water and still being a very good roster, even though they can't ever make it past the Vikings. Javon Kinlaw coming in for DeForest Buckner, I'm not mad at it at all, especially with the contract hold that they'll have on him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they didn't want to pay DeForest. They have other people to pay. They have to pay Nick Bosa at some point.
God, that contract's going to be terrifying. Almost as terrifying as he is.
Remember how scary it was when Myles Garrett got paid? I was happy we got to him early. Imagine what money he asked for.
Oof, disgusting. But switching over, the worst pick in the defensive lines for me, or worst fit, Neville Gallimore. You've got so many options now, Dallas. You've got Tristan Hill, Dontari Poe, Tyrone Crawford, Antoine Woods. And that's just for your defensive tackles positions. What are you going to do with this kid? You just drafted him relatively early, and now you've kind of got a logjam in there. There's an abundance of D-line talent in Dallas, and the pick probably should have went out to secondary, maybe add another position on your O-line since a lot of them were getting banged up. Just something to shore up positions that weren't necessarily of need, but had less depth than your defensive line. He's a solid player, don't get me wrong, but odds are he's not going to be touching the field for like quite a while, or at least for significant snaps.
Yeah, no way. He's a talented run stopper, but Tristan Hill was an early pick last year.
Yeah.
Don Terry Poe is at least talented enough to stay above a rookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they like their veterans anyway. You drafted Tyler Biadasz late. You could have gotten a more talented guard early in the case of Connor Williams not being good, which is a possibility. Hasn't exactly been up to the Pro Bowl standard they have at every position.
Yeah, not quite.
And with Travis Frederick retiring, maybe draft a center that's not in the 5th round?
Maybe.
I don't know. Joe Looney's not exactly their caliber. You know, they've known for their O-line. You're starting Joe Looney and Connor Williams. You might have gotten a starter somewhere, but it's just me.
Yeah. So go ahead and take over for this linebacking position.
Ooh, my pleasure. Best fit. We have another New England topic, at least.
Okay.
Yeah. Josh Uche. Bill Belichick's going to have an absolute field day with Josh Uche. He is versatile. He's got everything Bill Belichick wants in a linebacker. He has that Jamie Collins, Donta Hightower inside-outside feel. He can cover. He can rush. He's everything. He's similar to what Anthony Barr was coming out. And if he's honed right and all that talent gets put to work, maybe you got another Kyle Von Noy in your hands. Because dude's a beast.
They're amazing at breeding those hybrid linebackers, and they're supplying them for the rest of the league.
Yeah.
I think Josh Uche, as well as, unfortunately, what is your worst fit here, could have been, both of those players could be that role.
Yeah, because Zach Bond ended up with the Saints, who have this myriad of linebacker talent, and now you're trapping Zach Bond behind these guys. Because Alex Anzalone, he might not be a top-tier linebacker, but he's a pass cover linebacker,
Yeah.
and that is what they want there. They have him, they have Demario Davis.
Right.
You don't need Zach Bond.
No.
There's no need to have him there, and now he's stuck. Because they also have Kiko Alonso, and behind them they have Craig Robertson. And Craig Robertson's very similar to Zach Bond in that pass cover role. And if you were going to try to make him into an edge rusher, which he's not exactly an edge rusher, but he could have been like a hybrid type guy. He could have ran outside linebacker in blitz packages. But yeah, it's going to be wasted because he's behind Demario Davis on the depth chart, and Demario Davis isn't going anywhere anytime soon. He's a captain and he's a Pro Bowler. He's not someone you're just going to dump because you're like, ooh, young talent. Let's eat up some potential and throw away this veteran Pro Bowler.
Yeah,
That's not a thing.
It is a very curious decision. Zach Bond, a player that I held in very high regard, just the wrong spot. And maybe he can learn from Demario Davis, and it won't hinder him too much. And maybe he'll be able to come in and replace somebody down the line, but that's a tall task.
It is. You have a lot of linebacker talent there. You have a lot of depth
Yeah.
that I doubt they're going to just ignore.
Curious selections. All right, for cornerback, I ended up going best fit, Christian Fulton for Tennessee. Logan Ryan's gone. You have to accept that fact. Christian Fulton, he can step in. I think he'll be able to step over Malcolm Butler on the depth chart.
Probably.
If I'm honest with you.
Probably.
Adoree Jackson is going to be a great piece for him to bounce off of. They could solidify into a amazing tandem. If we're being honest, Christian Fulton fell too far anyways. They got him in the, second, third? Second.
I had him over Jeff Gladney.
Yeah.
So seeing him fall beyond the Vikings was kind of a shock to me.
Over Gladney, over Terrell, over Trevon Diggs, I think went above him as well.
I believe so.
I had him above all three of those guys. And he's such a talented player, especially in coverage, that I think Mike Vrabel got a really good one with this, in simplest terms.
Yes, you probably could have argued A.J. Terrell here. I don't believe he's as good a talent, but he's certainly a good fit for the Falcons, being that they needed corners, and they got Terrell.
Yeah, now that Trufont's gone.
Especially now that Trufont's gone. And, I mean, was it curious to take Terrell that early? yes, but he is long and athletic, so.
I don't think Dan Quinn's too comfortable either. He didn't want to squander somebody of higher caliber in Atlanta if he's not going to get to stick around. But
Maybe, is it sabotage?
potentially. Maybe he knows he's got a good gig coming somewhere else. Maybe he's got a good gig coming in Tennessee. Let Christian Fulton fall. Either way, my worst fit, I mentioned him just a second ago, Trevon Diggs, Dallas. I'm really getting on their defense today.
You're getting on their picks in general.
Yeah, well, pick better. It's a muddy path out to starting out wide. I don't think he's a particularly good slot corner option, but you've got Cheetah Bayouzi, you've got Anthony Brown, and Jordan Lewis. That's how many corners do you need starting?
You have 3 guys that are under 27 years old
Yeah.
that are comfortable starters.
Yeah.
You're taking Trevon Diggs.
Unless you're scared one of them's going to walk. I mean,
maybe Anthony Brown.
yeah.
Anthony
and
Brown's in contract year, isn't he?
I believe so. That sounds right.
Yeah. So they hate paying people.
Yeah, they do. That much is true. They've got so many people to pay anyways, like Dak apparently.
And Jordan Lewis is better than Anthony Brown, and he's in the slot.
It's
so
just
it's less money.
It's just a bit of a hectic scene as it stands right now. Maybe it's a short-sighted pick, but as for the 2020 season, I think it's the worst fit. I'm not sure he gets much time at all. Feels like a long-term project in the second round. So that's not where you take your projects, or it shouldn't be.
You're correct. Yeah. No, you don't take project players there.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
So yeah, Topher sent us in with the safeties.
My best fit safety. I was going to say Grant Delpit because he was going to be a starter, but he's missing 2020, so it seems out of place.
Yeah, I mean, not really a fit anymore because he's not going to be able to contribute.
Yes, if he was healthy, he would have been my best fit because he had a clear spot at starter. I don't think Carl Joseph was going to give him much of an issue. I was also going to say, I'm drawing a blank, Cardinals. Isaiah Simmons.
There you go.
I was going to say Isaiah Simmons.
I don't think of him as a safety.
I was going to say just that. I do not consider him a safety. He's more of a linebacker. He would have been the best fit, and he also would have been the first one off the board. But I didn't pick him either. I went with Xavier McKinney, Giants. It was a second-round pick. He's a plug-and-play starter.
Oh, yeah.
I would be shocked if he wasn't on the field for the first snap of the Giants' defensive season. He's versatile. He can play the box. He can play deep. He could play any real spot on the field. He could blitz, cover deep. He's versatile. He's perfect for the Giants because they need a guy who could do just about everything right now.
Yeah. The one thing they just need right now is talent, and Xavier McKinney has an abundance of it. I personally thought he was a better safety than Delpit. I know that was a kind of a point of contention between us. But McKinney, as much as I don't like saying it because he is in division, that's a great pick.
The Giants could not have made better use of their second-round pick. But like I said, I'd be surprised if he wasn't on the field to start, but the Giants also like veterans. So if they maybe pick someone up or if they have someone on the roster that has more experience, I could potentially see him maybe not getting every down like he should, but it's just what I'm saying now.
Right.
Just to preface it. He is the best fit, though, and he should be the starter. Worst fit, Kavon Wallace on the Eagles. I had a hard time finding a worst fit safety because they were either irrelevant or they weren't bad fits.
Yeah.
Kavon Wallace is a bad fit. The Eagles, like most NFC East teams at all, love veterans over potential. A lot of other teams like potential and start rookies even if they have a veteran who may be able to beat them out for the spot. AFC doesn't do that. NFC East doesn't do that. They hate rookies, and they always start their veterans and let the rookies develop. But Kavon Wallace is talented. He is really fast, sideline to sideline, and he's great in deep coverage. I thought maybe he'd have a spot in the slot, but that's not going to happen.
No.
Avonte Maddox runs the slot and the outside depending on where they need him, so he's not going to be able to fit in there. They're going to be starting veterans over him. It doesn't matter who they are. And Rodney McLeod is definitely the solidified starter.
Yeah. That's one of the
And-
most unwavering positions in their secondary. I
Yes,
would say.
Rodney McLeod is a solidified starter, and at free safety, where I thought maybe he'd be able to find some time, there's no chance. They have veterans there.
Yeah.
Names are escaping my mind, but he's not going to get a chance to play, and it's a real waste of potential that could have been used elsewhere.
Yeah, he just, even with Malcolm Jenkins' departure, that still wasn't the position they should have tried to fill.
Yeah,
just felt
and
wrong.
he was a later pick, but he just has no chance at finding that spot. And it's a shame because he's a talented guy who should at least get a chance. But no, it's just not going to happen.
Here you go. For their secondary, it would be Avonte Maddox, Rodney McLeod, Jalen Mills, Darius Slay,
Jalen Mills.
and Roby Coleman.
And Jalen Mills, is he bad? Absolutely not.
No.
But why? Why is he over a rookie? He's had such struggles for this team. He almost lost them the Super Bowl on 3 separate occasions. And he's getting the start over a guy with this type of potential.
And Will Parks. Will Parks is also on that roster.
Well,
And
there's no way he's beating out Will Parks.
Yeah,
I'm surprised Will Parks isn't starting over Jalen Mills.
yeah. He is third string strong safety on their roster currently, or according to our lads. But yeah,
It's weird.
They just doesn't feel like the right pick at all. They went for potential, but in the wrong spots. They had other positions they probably should have tried to fill.
They still could have gotten DPJ, and none of their receivers can catch, so look at that.
No kidding.
Oh, yo, isn't Nelson Aguilar on the Raiders?
Yes.
There you go. That's another Raiders receiver.
Oh yeah, because now that Tyrell's down, Henry has to have somebody to at least act like they're running routes.
Yeah, why not? There you go.
Yeah.
Nelson Aguilar, Raiders receiver.
So Topher, that brings us to the end of our welcome back episode.
Yes.
We're gonna be putting out a lot more of these. We have to be. We got the new set, which, speaking of, just to kind of address what happened, the place we used to be recording in, the person that our friend moved out, and so now we are shooting in Topher's lovely apartment, and we've made it a little bit more casual, a little bit more open. So hopefully it'll have a change of pace. But for next time, I'm Jackson McCarty.
I am always Chris Barr.
We'll see you guys next time.